So the last thing to talk about is challenges to autonomy. And all this, of course, is within the area of artificial intelligence, data, algorithms, big data and algorithms. And there are two general areas of discussion that we will have. One is in this area of nudges. What is a nudge? What does it mean to nudge someone? And what does that have to do with artificial intelligence? And then the other area is the area of something called dark patterns, which is also kind of a question of nudging, but it's nudging, which is, as its name indicates, is a little bit more aggressive, or which in terms of at least autonomy is a little bit more dark. It seems to manifestly take away from people's autonomy. So let's think about these challenges to autonomy. And we'll start with the idea of a nudge. What is a nudge? Well, this is from a very famous book from 2008 by Cass Sunstein, and I can't remember what Thaler's first name is, but it's Cass Sunstein and Thaler. And the book is just called Nudge, and that's how they define it. Any aspect of the choice architecture that alters people's behavior in a predictable way without forbidding any options. That's really key. A nudge, for it to be a nudge, nothing can be explicitly forbidden, right? It can't be, nudge is not saying, the policeman saying, you have to go left, you cannot go right. That is not a nudge, right? A nudge has to leave open the ability for you to turn your car left or turn your car right. Or as this example illustrates, and presumably for it to be a nudge, there needs to be an escalator or an elevator that is working right next to this, right? If you just say, I'm going to turn off the elevator and make people take the stairs because they will burn calories, that's not a nudge. The nudge is you have the escalator and you have the stairs, and you try to alter people's choice architecture. You try to get them to take the stairs because it's good for them by giving them these little signs saying, look, you can burn some calories. You can do some weight loss right here, right now. Just take the stairs instead of the elevator. That's a nudge, right? So a nudge means that you're altering people's choices, but without forbidding things, right? It's altering without forbidding things. And they also make the point that it's without changing their economic incentives, right? It's also true you can always nudge people. You can always get someone to take the stairs by giving them $1 at the top if they get to the top on the stairs, or $10 or some amount, depends on how long the stairs are. But in that case too, that's not a nudge. That's just a profit. It's a reward. That's a reward system. A nudge is the way that is the idea that you will change someone's behavior without prohibitions and without explicit rewards like money. Obviously, there is a reward here too. It's the idea that you will lose some weight, but it's not like we're buying you off, right? You're doing it. You're making your own choice. You're saying, look, it's a little bit maybe it is at least a little bit discomforting to have to walk up the stairs, but it's worth it to burn these calories. And I make that decision myself. It's a free choice. It's an expression of my autonomy. But what the nudge does is it helps me, in a certain sense, visualize the choice. And it helps me visualize it in a way that appeals to my particular, many people have the desire to lose a little bit of weight, appeals to my particular desire to lose a little bit of weight. Now, this is a simple nudge here on these stairs, but what artificial intelligence does in big data is it supercharges potentially the ability to nudge people by appealing to our specific and unique psychological profiles, by appealing to, let's just say something like this. Maybe if I am trying to lose weight, then this sign on the stairs is going to be very effective. But if I'm not trying to lose weight, and maybe I'm actually, the doctors told me I've gone too far, I'm too thin, I should rest for a while and get some weight back, then maybe this same set of arrows and words is going to discourage me from taking the stairs. But what artificial intelligence and big data does, and then screens, which allow things to be changed, right? It would allow that signage to be changed to fit my specific situation. So perhaps I'm not on a diet, and I don't care about diets, but I do care a lot about feeling healthy. Right? It might change the message to feel 1 unit energized, feel 2 units energized, be completely energized. And maybe that appeals to someone like me. Maybe, as I say, I'm thin and I don't really need to worry about a diet. So the nudge of calories does nothing for me. But energy and energizing, that does, because I'm interested in feeling vivid and alive. So what big data does is it allows us to know the user, right? This is privacy, but we'll talk about this later. But of course, Amazon and the credit card companies, all these companies, they know a lot about us, right? I mean, if I sign up to go to the gym, then probably the credit card company can figure out that I am worried about my weight and my diet, right? And so they can figure out this kind of nudge will work for me. But if I've never signed up to go to the gym and I never do any weight loss, they look at my grocery bill, there's no weight loss stuff on there, I'm eating cookies all the time and stuff, then they know that this kind of nudging will not work for me, but they might know something else that does work for me. Maybe I on my credit card, they see I'm always going to dance classes. And so a different kind of nudge would be, this is the 1-step, 2-step of the waltz or something. Practice your waltz steps up the stairs. That might appeal to me. So the idea of data and algorithms and artificial intelligence here is the idea that a lot of data is being, we all know, a lot of data is being gathered about us every day, all the time. And that data can be combined with knowledge about what appeals to people. Right? Artificial intelligence can look at nudges that have worked and not worked in the past, and seeing that when you show people on the screen who are interested in diets, when you show them an activity they can do that will burn some calories right now, then they're likely to do that activity. So that's the way nudging works. And that's also the way it is supercharged by artificial intelligence. As we know more about specific people, have more of their personal information, and we know more about how people in different situations react to nudges. If you're on a diet, you do one thing. If you're worried about dancing, you do something else, right? Then it becomes very easy for nudges to be something like manipulation. Right? It can be almost a constant stream of things that we are receiving that are designed to appeal to what we are interested in. And again, it might not be that we are being forced to do something. It might not be that we are getting money to do something, but it's pushing us a little bit in one direction or the other. And again, the possibility of nudging increases radically as personal information about users, people like me and you, is accumulated by companies, and as artificial intelligence allows that information to be used and targeted more specifically with greater efficacy, that the worries about nudges increase. Okay, so that's what a nudge is. I think that the question about whether or not this interferes with your autonomy, is really clear. It's just there. On one hand, we are free. If I see this in the stairs and I go up the stairs, it's true that I'm freely making that decision, and I think it is a good case of autonomy. I see the opportunity to lose calories. I impose that rule upon myself. I'm going to take the stairs to lose these calories, and I do it. Sounds like autonomy. But certainly there's a point where that can transfer into manipulation. And so here's a case here, which is kind of interesting because it's a case where it seems like the nudge is not necessarily a bad thing, even though it does seem to interfere with, at least it seems to me, to potentially interfere with the user's autonomy. And so the example, this is from an article by Bornstein and Arkin from some time ago, 2017. They say, look, robots, and when they say robots, they mean something like a chatbot, right? The Amazon Alexa or something like that, could include verbal prompts to donate money to a cause like the American Heart Association. If a robot possesses the capacity, that is, if Amazon knows a detailed user profile, then offering specifically tailored recommendations becomes a distinct possibility. For example, if the user has a family history of a particular illness, like heart attack, the robot could suggest contributing to an associated charity, the American Heart Association. Right? So what's going on here? What's going on here is something like the American Heart Association, which is a charity in which, I'm not sure, I haven't studied them, but let's just imagine for our presentation that they are good and generous people who are taking money and really using it for solving medical problems about heart health. So it's a good group of people, generous, hardworking, and so on. And so giving money to them, yes, it seems like a good thing, right? And so let's just take that as an assumption. It's a good thing. But wait a minute now, because what's happening here is they are making an appeal, let's just say, that they are making an appeal based upon your vulnerability to worry about heart disease because it runs in your family. Or let's imagine even a stronger case. Let's say that my father died yesterday, I'm just making this up again, from a heart attack, and all of a sudden today, the American Heart Association sends me an ad on my screen saying, look, donate to the American Heart Association. Well, that's a nudge because it's not forcing me to do that. And it's not offering me any financial reward to do that. But it's taking advantage of my state of mind, right? Because right now I'm really acutely concerned about and hate heart disease. So, am I really free if am I making a free decision about donating to the American Heart Association if I get this message? I guess it's from the chatbot, so imagine it's from Alexa, whatever it's called, the Amazon thing, tells me, or gives me that possibility, or if I see that ad on my screen, again, that's a nudge. No one is forcing me to give money to the American Heart Association. But are they diminishing my autonomy by presenting me with this nudge? Or then another example, just a pet one of mine. I guess like many people, I just hate this constant, everything is a tip. And they swing that, someone just gives you a coffee at the counter and they swing the thing around. Which do you choose? 18% tip or 55% tip? And then if you say no tip, it's only a tiny button on the bottom. And you feel like you're being watched. Well, no one is forcing you to give the 85% tip. You can give 0 tip if you want. But you feel kind of self-conscious, right? You feel like, on the one hand, I really don't feel like I should have to give a 95% tip to someone who just handed me a cup of coffee. But on the other hand, I feel self-conscious and they've put this thing here. No one is forcing me. But that's a nudge. So the American Heart Association showing me this ad or the tip thing turned around. Are these limitations or attacks upon our autonomy? Or instead, are they opportunities to exercise our autonomy? Are they moments where we can say, look, I'm going to put down my own rule for myself and I'm going to make a decision? Maybe you could say take it the other way and say, look, far from being, in the case of the American Heart Association, far from being an exploitation and a diminishment of your autonomy, maybe you could say it's an opportunity to exercise your autonomy. So it's positive in that way. Unclear. One thing that is clear, however, and that is certain, is that the accumulation of personal data about users combined with the artificial intelligence understanding of how users in the past have reacted to situations which are like the one you find yourself in now, those things together, those powers are increasing. And so we will be increasingly faced with these kinds of nudges. And so we will have to decide, are these violations of our autonomy, or are they opportunities to exercise our autonomy? And how do we measure that? Right? At what point does the line get crossed? If the American Heart Association just shows us an ad for this charity the day after my father dies, that's fairly weak, right? That is not very compelling. But you can imagine how they could personalize that and say on the ad, like, has someone you know died recently from a heart attack? You're like, yes. Well, then you can help. Donate to the American Heart Association, right? That's much more compelling. Does the autonomy level change from one ad to the other? Or is your autonomy being diminished? That's the kind of question which would be addressed here in the case of a nudge. And then if you came to the conclusion that your autonomy was being diminished, you might also have another ethical question, which is, well, is it okay for the American Heart Association to do that because it's a good charity? But it's not okay for the Starbucks people to do that because they're just a for-profit company grubbing for money? Are those two situations different? Or instead, are they really just the same? Is it just two different ways that your autonomy is either being diminished or giving you the opportunity to be expressed? Unclear. But this is the kind of thing or the kind of issue that people are wrestling with today in the area of what are called nudges. That is, control or influencing individuals without prohibitions and without direct monetary rewards. Now, the area of nudges is, as I say, that's an area of debate, right? That's an area where people are saying, look, you can take one side or you can take the other. Maybe it's helping your autonomy, maybe it's not. Let's think more about this. But you can push it a little further toward nudges that are pretty clearly trying to take away your autonomy. And when you get there, you get to something called dark patterns. And the example here is user interface design choices that benefit an online service by coercing, steering, or deceiving users. Yeah, I guess that seems a little extreme to me. It's not quite that extreme. That's wrong. It's not quite that extreme, a dark pattern. But dark patterns are, I think my definition is better, they're misleading links, boxes, pre-checked forms for spam. They're things that don't prohibit anything. They're not coercive. They're not forcing you to do anything, but they're definitely steering you in one direction. And so here's one, and you see this all the time. You can buy a pair of shoes. This is a real example. You can buy a pair of shoes, and insurance for shoes, come on. You don't need insurance for shoes. But they want you to waste your money on the insurance. And so they make it this color. And it almost becomes automatic, right? When you're doing these things, you're just flying through the page, and there's always some stuff you have to check and you have to click. And it's just so easy to just add to basket with insurance, right? But something like that clearly, it's not coercing, but it is steering you to make a decision without thinking. That's what they want. It's obvious. They want you to add the insurance to your basket and pay for it without first, right? That's why it's like that. And it's very slight, right? They just put that color there so it kind of draws the attention of the cursor, and you're frustrated. It takes so long and you have stuff to do. You just hit it and go. that's a nudge. Again, nothing is being forbidden. You're perfectly free to add to the basket without insurance, perfectly free to do it, of course. So it's just a nudge. It's not a prohibition, but it sure seems like the goal is entirely to take away your ability to make the right decision for you. It sure seems like it. And when it's like that, when the goal clearly is to take away your ability to make your own decision, that's a dark pattern. That's where a nudge crosses into being a dark pattern. And of course, sneakers are insurance, who cares? But that technology, that ability will become more serious and be applied to more serious questions as time goes on. And then the final, I think even more extreme case of dark patterns is when you use artificial intelligence and specifically sort of biological information to, again, you're not forcing anyone to do anything, but you're really trying to take away, really trying to stop them from making a free decision and just steering them in a certain direction. And Facebook does this very well through the careful administration of dopamine, which is the brain, the chemical in your brain, which, if I understand correctly, I think this is right, is related to or is even the same as the drug that is released when you get some addictive drugs like heroin or opiates or cocaine, in that kind of area. You feel good. When dopamine and other things you can do without drugs that also make you feel very good, you want that sensation. And people will do, all you need to do is go out into the street and look. For that sensation, people will do quite a bit. They'll do all kinds of things because they want to get that dopamine rush. Now, what Facebook learned how to do with their little like button is they learned that when your post on Facebook got a like, it released just a little bit. It's just a little bit of dopamine. It's not like euphoric joy, at least not usually, when someone gives you a like. But Facebook learned that, yes, that's the way our brains react. And you do get a biological drug released when you get that like. And so, through artificial intelligence, they learned how to administer this drug. I mean, if you give too many likes, everything is like, then the brain, it's too easy. The brain stops releasing the dopamine. But if you almost never give the like, then you kind of forget, your brain forgets that I will get the dopamine if I do something. You have to administer it perfectly. You have to administer it well. You have to give it frequently enough so that the brain remembers, but not so frequently that it just says, forget it, it's not worth the effort. So what Facebook learned to do is to give you likes. Of course, it has nothing to do with what people really like and don't like. Of course not. What they actually do is they give you the likes or arrange for you to get the likes by showing your post to more people or fewer people. They arrange that easily, right, with big data and algorithms. If they figure that you need now a bit of dopamine to stay on the platform, you need a like, right, to get that rush in your brain and stay using Facebook, then what do? They start showing your post to more and more people until finally someone, thank God, pushes the like. And so you get that like, and then bang, they stop showing your post. Right? So that's the way they decide how to show your post to other people. They show it just frequently enough so that they can give you the feedback that will keep you on the platform, right? So that's how you know, right? That you can, if you want to double reverse psychology, you can manipulate Facebook. You can just put a senseless post that's silly, but they will still keep pushing it out there until someone finally likes it. So if you want to make them waste their time, you can give them a dumb post and then stay on platform long enough so you still need a like. Facebook figures they need to give you a like, that will force them to show this bad post over and over again. That's if you're mischievous and devious and want to harm Facebook. But who would want to do that? The main point is that dark patterns at the extreme can be intersected with literally biological, physiological, with drugs in your own body. So at this point, then, there is this question. If we say that a nudge is a way of steering people's behavior, but without prohibitions, without forcing one way or the other, without coercion, and if it steers you but leaves the free choice to be yours, then in this case, is this still a nudge? And is Facebook still involved in nudges if it is literally using the release of dopamines? It's controlling that release through its use of likes and other things. If it's using drugs to keep you on the Facebook platform, then is this still a nudge? And if it's not a nudge, if this is coercion, if you're being forced, like a drug addict is kind of forced to stay on platform, well, then we can say absolutely that Facebook is an anti-autonomy platform. But that's not necessarily the case. Maybe this is still a nudge because you're the one choosing to get involved in these likes. I mean, at any time, like the people who own Facebook correctly, and to their credit say directly, anytime you want, close the laptop, disconnect from the computer. You're free to do that. Of course you are. So the case can strongly be made in favor of Facebook to say, look, Facebook is an autonomy positive organization. Facebook serves your ability to make your own decisions. You can always turn it off. And as long as that's true, then everything that follows afterward, all the happiness and the dopamine and all that stuff, those are not violations of your autonomy or limitations of your autonomy. They're just expressions of autonomy. They're just you having fun. And it is fun, right? Getting likes, it feels good. That's why people do it. So Facebook can make the strong case that their platform is autonomy positive. You make the choice to go onto it. You make the choice to get involved in this pursuit of likes, and you feel good because of it. Or maybe you don't, but that's your own fault. If you don't feel good, it's your fault, and it's your freedom's fault, not anybody else's fault. But again, right, there's the other case where you can say, when it gets to the point where drugs are being released in your brain, then we talked about that in terms of the three levels upon which practical autonomy functions, the level of physical freedom, mental freedom, and psychological freedom. And we said psychological freedom is this idea that you can think clearly, right? You're not drugged. Well, I mean, it seems like in this case, that maybe Facebook is limiting your ability to think clearly. So on the psychological level, it is inhibiting your autonomy. And for that reason, you could conclude ethically that Facebook is not an autonomy positive platform, even though it's true and undeniable that at any time anyone using Facebook can move their cursor up and log out. Of course, that's true. So it's hard to know. I mean, which is it? Even at the extreme case where you have biology involved, is Facebook a nudge or is it a dark pattern? Right? We wanted to say the dark pattern. A dark pattern is a kind of case where they're clearly just trying to trick you. That's it, right? And so that's an anti-autonomy. But Facebook, unblock, you can log out anytime you want. Is it a nudge, or again, is it a dark pattern? Is it more manipulative and a true diminishment of your autonomy? That's the question. I'm not sure what the answer is, but why don't we take the last 5-minute break we're going to have, and on this subject of autonomy, and you can think about that yourself a little bit. It doesn't have to be Facebook. All the big social media platforms, in one way or another, do things like that. In one way or another, they're feeding you likes or thumbs up or whatever it is, or hearts or what have you. They're feeding you those things to keep you on platform. And the question is this a kind of enhancement of self-determination? Is it an opportunity for you to use your own ability to make your own decisions? Yes? Or is it, after being initially an opportunity to make your own decisions, does it convert into a dark pattern and become a loss of autonomy, kind of autonomy trap, where you can't get out of, can't get off the platform? Hard decision.